Welcome to the Jacksonville Momcast, a podcast dedicated to telling the real stories of local Jacksonville moms. Sponsored by Jacksonville Beach Moms, each month we'll cover topics to help you navigate mom life on the First Coast. Thanks for joining us as we tackle all things motherhood and more with a focus on the 904. Welcome to episode 30. This is our last episode for season 3, and we are here with Justine DeGrave of DeGrave Designs. And Justine, let's get started by having you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
Okay, so I'm Justine. Like most my age, I'm a wife and a mom. I have 4 kids. They are ages from 11, 9, 6, and 3. So we are busy with all the things all the time. I was actually a stay-at-home mom since my daughter was about 3. So for about 7 years, that was just my full-time thing. So it's been kind of an adjustment doing my business and having another focus, but it's so fun. When I was a stay-at-home mom, I really always was finding things to fuel that creative soul. I actually had a tumbler business that was really successful is how I started doing something, the glitter tumblers, and I just got so overwhelmed with it that I quit. I was always just that crafty mom trying to be the room mom, the team mom, all the things to get that out of my system.
That's amazing. So talk to us about DeGrave Designs and tell us a little bit about your business and that creative outlet that you found.
Yeah, so DeGrave Designs is a full service event company. And so I specialize in balloon art and children's parties, but I do a wide range of things. So fit for any occasion.
And what kind of led you to that? You mentioned looking for that creative outlet, but what made you focus specifically on where you ended up?
Like I said, I've always been seeking out ways to be crafty, but above all, I always did over the top parties for my own kids. Even when my daughter turned 1, that was when Pinterest really, this was 11 years ago. So that's when it really first started being a thing, doing those Pinterest parties. And I'm really the only one in my friend group or anything that was doing it. And so everyone was always like, oh my gosh, please plan my kids' party. I would pay you. I could never do this. And I just never believed in myself like that though. You see these parties on Pinterest or wherever, and I was like, no, this is just for fun. I didn't see myself on that level. I also was very overwhelmed at the thought of trying to price that out or plan that, or I was like, no. And then finally in 2021, a friend of mine just was like, no, you have to do this. She attended one of my parties and was like, no, you have to do this. Do the balloons that I had done. I'd done a few balloons, and she was like, just do the balloons for this event coming up. And I was like, okay. So I felt like that was, a little easier to price out and focus on. And so once I did a few, it definitely was, I was aware that it's a high demand at the time. I don't think anyone was really doing it yet, and people were still intimidated by doing it themselves. So I realized this was definitely my foot in the door to doing events. And then a friend's daughter asked me to do a tent party like I had done for my daughter a few years back, and was like, but can you make it mermaid? And I was like, oh. And so that just snowballed where friends of friends just kept asking for different themes. And so I was kind of doing the balloons and the tents hand in hand. And it was my doorway into events.
And so you mentioned birthday parties, but what other type of events do you design for?
So my niche is definitely children's parties. That's my favorite. I'm not sure if it's because I'm just in the thick of motherhood but it's something that's just so fun about it to me. There's so many details and endless possibilities with the themes. But, with doing balloon art and all the versatile backdrops that I have and props and things, I definitely do a lot of baby showers, bridal showers as well. And then, of course, adult birthday parties, graduations, homecomings, proms, grand openings, you name it.
That's such a diverse list. And I do think also, you mentioned the kid birthday parties, but I think also as a mom in the thick of motherhood, if you can outsource something, by all means, find somebody to help you with it. So, I think there's definitely a need there for moms who want to throw great birthday parties and just don't have the time.
Oh yeah, I say that all the time. And as much as I do everything myself, as far as like I'm crafty and I can do all the things, but I always outsourced my sweets. So that's one thing where I was like, that's where I want to spend my budget. So it just depends for moms, what's important for them when it comes to their time.
So true. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about COVID. You said you launched in 2021. So, things were still kind of weird then with parties, and we saw a real surge of the drive-by parties and outdoor events, things in driveways. How did COVID and, the residual lockdown kind of impact your business?
Oh yeah, yeah, that was definitely a thing. That's so crazy to think back to. But yeah, I actually started like kind of right after lockdown. Things had definitely started to open up, and so I felt like this was actually a great time. It was kind of scary being like, well, I'm gonna like announce I'm doing this, and then what if it just flops because we're still in the middle of a pandemic? But I do think it was a good time. People were just starting to have, they were so ready to have a few favorites over. We're just going to have a small gathering. And so as someone who just started, it was a great time because they just wanted a little pop of balloons and they felt like that's all they needed. So it was actually, I felt like it worked out.
And I think and this is at least from my experience, when your kids have had one and sometimes two birthdays where you couldn't really do something, I feel like by the time we were kind of back, people were really ready to be back and do a party right. And so starting with balloons like outside, is that different than setting them up inside? I feel like I know the answer to this question, but I'd like to hear it from.
Oh, 100,000%. Oh my gosh. It's like so much more stress. And I did two out of my four kids' parties were outdoor this year. And one was in the middle of August. So I was like, why did I do this to myself? But it's beautiful outside. Some events just call for outdoors. And so I feel like that's definitely something where professional comes in. I can't tell you how many events I've done where they say, oh, I did the balloons myself last time, and they just popped the whole party. And then as far as, I'm always equipped with sandbags and reinforcements that other people, I just don't think they would think of because you don't think of it. It's just a beautiful outdoor party. And then it's a windy day and having a professional. I mean, I of course I'm not opposed to Mother Nature. She gets me sometimes too, but I do try my best to be prepared with weighted backdrops and sandbags and whatever else I can do to help the wind. And I use professional grade balloons only. So that makes a huge difference when it comes to them being placed in the sun and withstanding those elements. But yeah, indoors, if we can, always.
I didn't even know professional grade balloons were a thing. So,
yeah.
I will never be creating any type of balloon.
Just call me.
I will. And I consider myself very crafty. And that is like you with like the sweets. That's what you would outsource. Me, like I would outsource balloons 100% of the time.
And I get that a lot where moms do an incredible party. I mean, the tablescapes, everything is so gorgeous. And they're just like, I just don't do the balloons though. And so that's great, that I can come in and help them with that.
And so let's talk about your favorites. So I know you kind of mentioned you do a lot of the kid parties. I love a good kid party. I love a good theme. We're heavy on the themes in this house.
Oh yeah.
What is your favorite type of event, or like if anything specific you've done? What's your favorites that you've had the chance to work on?
So I think my favorite has to be first birthdays. And I know that that's like still in the children's party. I've already said that, but first birthdays specifically are just so bittersweet. They're such a milestone for mamas and they're just so excited and they usually want to go all out. It's such a monument for them. And that first year is so difficult as a mom. I know firsthand, figuring out all these new things, new sleep patterns every time you turn around and you're just learning this new tiny human. So I think it's just such a celebration for the mom and the baby.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think our first birthdays were definitely more of a yay, we're survived as parents.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
type party than your one. Like, we knew you were going to be one, like, but we didn't know if we
Wait,
were
was
going to
I
make
going to survive it? Yeah, that was questionable in that first year. So
it.
I think that's definitely my favorite.
That's awesome. Now, I feel like in the last, like, I'm going to say 2 years, a lot of competition has popped up in this industry. I mean, I think that some of it is that it has evolved from, like we talked about, that drive-by outdoor patio party from COVID. But I feel like every time I scroll through Instagram, there's a new business that's kind of, does similar, not always the same as you. What are some things that set you apart?
So yeah, I definitely agree and acknowledge I say this all the time, there's a new balloon girl or someone who does parties every time I turn around, and these days I think that, you can do anything with the internet. Like, you can learn any new hobby or anything. And so I I don't know. I really just try to only think of myself as my competitor, though. I full-heartedly believe in community over competition. I have befriended so many local balloon artists that have popped up after me, and I think they have their own style and they do great. I just try to, make myself I try to make each install better than the last. I try to, turn my clients into repeat clients. I try to just continue to learn new skills and grow at my pace without limits. When I first started, I didn't get that vibe at all from so many people. It was very competitive. It was very like, stay in your own lane. You can only do glamping parties, or you can only do this. And that just was never it for me. I always knew I wanted to bring it all together. I wanted to do whatever made me feel, creative. And so I try not to be like that. And in the same breath, I think that that might be what sets me apart, to answer your question. Like, of course I'm not naive. I know it's a competition, but I do think there's enough for everyone. And I think what sets me apart is people, when it comes to events, they want someone who gets them. They want someone who they can trust, and someone they relate to, that will, really see their vision and bring it to life. And I think by being authentic and just being myself, I think that that somehow does that. And that's what's continued to make me successful, maybe. I don't know, because like I said, I think there's so many great other artists in Jacksonville.
I love hearing that. And I also am very pro community over competition. And I think that as you grow and you become more popular and your dates book up, you're going to have to refer out to people, and that it's so great to have a repertoire of people that are in your industry, that their work, you trust them to be able to refer out a client. And I think that as a client, I appreciate that. And that I'm going to come back to you and be like, oh, you couldn't do my party last year, but are you available this year?
Right.
So I just think on a professional level that's so important. Okay, so we talked about the balloon art. We talked about, some of your party skills. Talk to us about some of your other services that you do through your business, because it's more than just balloons.
It is. Yeah. Yeah. So like I mentioned, other than balloon art, I also do the ever so popular now glamping parties. So like I said, it wasn't a thing when I first did it for my daughter. It was for her 7th birthday. So that was 4 years ago. And it was literally a glamping theme. It was camping indoors theme. And so these days now, like I said, there's a million themes. I do, so that they're the luxury sleepovers, and it's where every child gets their own tent, do string lights, garland, theme pillows, just the works. And I have about 25 themes now. So it's glamping, but you can do it mermaid, you can make it TikTok, and just millions themes, endless possibilities for boys and girls. And they're just so much fun. And then as an extension of that, I started doing the children's picnics. I just think there wasn't a market for that when I first started. And so that's why I love doing them. There's definitely a market for picnics. There's, so many beautiful picnic companies that do these luxury beach, but they're always geared towards adults. They're elegant on the beach, or, things like that. And I didn't think that there was the same thing for littles. And I think that they're just so fun to style and put together. So other than the glamping and the picnics, I also have other add-ons like outdoor movie night, where I have a big inflatable screen and beanbag chairs, and It comes with everything all set to go, the speaker, the projector. So that's really popular. And then I also have a big 6-meter yurt, like a bell tent for outdoor sleepovers too, really glamping outside. And it also makes a great like gathering area during parties. I've used it as like a chill tent where teenagers will just hang out in there, or, things like that. And then I've been doing a lot more of the full event styling where I decorate the tables, handle your favors, just make it all tied together.
And do you coordinate it all with food or treats or anything like that?
So I have done a few of those lately. I do think the party planning where, there's specific party planners where that's all they do is coordinate your vendors. And I think that there's definitely a need for that when it comes to these bigger events. I have done a few, but being a vendor myself, when it comes to doing my balloons and all my things, I only take about one of those a month where I actually plan and coordinate with their vendors for them, because it is such a big job in itself to coordinate their food and make sure all of those vendors are on point as well as myself. So I only take about one of those clients a month to make sure that I can give them the attention that it takes.
That makes sense. And how many parties a month about are you planning besides the one big, but like, on a given weekend? I mean, you are a mom of 4. I'm assuming you have to go to like soccer games and ballet class and whatever else they're doing.
Yes, that's what I meant by it's been such an adjustment to miss a T-ball game or something. It just really, I tried to be in all the places all the time, and I really had to reprogram my brain and just try to be in the moment when I am, and so if that means I make it to 1 out of the 3 that Saturday, then that's a win for me. So, but most events are starting by about 1 o'clock. So I can usually make it to some of the 3 o'clock games and stuff like that. But yeah, so I do one big platinum client a month, like I talked about. And then I'll usually have I'd say at least 4 to 6, 7 a weekend where I'm doing, maybe 2 glamping parties and 2 baby showers and 2 birthdays. So about 4. I try not to take more than 3 on a Saturday. And then sometimes that overloads into Friday night setups, to where if, I'm already booked on a Saturday, I'll say, well, if it's indoors at your home, I can come Friday and set it up for you. So all together, and then I'll have a baby shower on Sunday here and there. So Sundays I try to keep with my family, and I have an assistant now, and she's doing some solo stuff on her own. And I feel like that's so much growth for me to let the reins loose a little bit. And she does a great job. And so on Sundays is when I usually try to have her go do one or go do a pickup so that I can spend some time with them.
That's fantastic. I do think as a business owner, that delegating portion is
it's so hard.
So hard.
And that's what everyone tells you is, I got to where I was overwhelmed, and that's how I got with the Tumblr business when I first started was, where I just was like, I don't want to do this anymore. Like, I'm too overwhelmed. And you have to delegate like that. That's the only way you're going to grow and continue to be able to take clients and, and do more, is to delegate. And it's so hard.
It's so hard. And so for you, what has been hard to delegate and what has been easier to delegate? We talked to someone a couple months ago about social media, and she had originally delegated her social media and then decided she actually enjoyed that. And so she took it back and then delegated something else that she, as a business owner, you're kind of like, ew, that's like not my favorite. Yeah. So for you, what is it? What is your, like, I want to get rid of this off my plate and I'll never get rid of this off my plate?
Yeah, so that's actually a really good question. It's something I'm still struggling with, is finding that. So I have tried having a booking assistant. So where I got rid of that on the back end, and I don't know if, I don't know if I want to go back to it. So currently I'm doing all my booking myself again. And I'm back to this like, love hate with it, because I do feel like when a client's booking, you should be the face of that. Like, I feel like they want to talk to me. They want to hear my ideas and lock that in. So I think it's important. And I don't want to give that responsibility away again. I felt like I was way too controlling about it. But it's also not my strong point of the organizing and the scheduling. And I much would rather be creating a new theme or something. So I'm still struggling with that decision. I think that I like doing the booking myself. So what I like to delegate right now is definitely doing the pickups, the smaller setups, and then also the prep work. I have my assistant help a lot with the prep work. And, when the storage unit where I store everything, she'll go and organize that for me. She'll go pack the glamping party. So I still design them, and I just make a list of everything that goes with each theme, and she can go pack that, so I still like to be on site as much as possible on setup day.
I'm glad you mentioned the storage unit, because as you were talking about your different themes, I was kind of like, is all of this in bins in her garage? Or like, I mean, I know you don't have a storefront. So,
Right.
so how have you managed that as a mom? Just, I mean,
A constant struggle, constant. Like my poor kids can't get to their bikes half the time. So yeah, I have 2 storage units now, and they hold all of my glamping and picnic stuff. So my assistant does a great job at keeping that organized for me. And so we'll go there and pack all the glamping parties in bins, and they're ready to go for Saturdays. We'll usually do that like midweek. And then at my house, though, in my garage is where I keep all of my like balloon backdrops, props, high chairs, peacock chairs for baby showers, all those things. So my garage is very full of all of that, all my serveware when I style dessert tables. So I have shelving that's full of serveware. Yeah, it's a struggle. A storefront warehouse is the goal.
that's a great goal. Maybe soon. Now that you've been doing this for a little over a year, do you have times of year that you find are much busier than others? I mean, I know we're like getting into the holidays, which I'm sure are insane, but have you found any like lulls, or are you just kind of like not there yet as far as?
Yeah, I definitely, the holidays, of course, are crazy. Because you have your normal, kids are still having their birthdays in December or in October, and then you also have the added Halloween parties, homecoming, Christmas parties. So you have your normal clientele of parties, and then you have all these specialty events too. So it's definitely a crazy time. And then I would also say like April, May is equally the same because you're having all the graduation season. So you're still having your normal. And for some reason, of course, that's baby shower, wedding season. So you're having lots of bridal showers. And then on top of that, graduation season. I did feel like I had a great lull in July. June,
Okay.
End of June, July. I feel like everyone's going on vacation. Everyone is kind of, you had 4th of July and birthday parties, of course, but I do feel like a lot more of, oh, we're just going to go to Disney for their birthday, or lots of, we're just going to go on vacation for their birthday, or people are just on vacation in general. So I did feel like that's when I took my own personal vacation, and I felt like it was a great time to kind of like, it was a nice little break.
And how nice that with kids, they were off and you could do something with the family.
Yeah. So I thought it was perfect. It was great, kind of just being slow. I mean, and by slow, I just mean one event a weekend, 1 or 2 events a weekend, not like slam packed.
And how far in advance are you booking up for those busy times?
So I'm already booking into April of next year.
Wow.
And of course I still squeeze people in whenever I can. I do have a 2-week, where I cut it off. I used to take very last minute stuff, but as far as it goes with ordering inventory and stuff, I feel like it cuts it too close any more than 2 weeks out.
So the tip is to book you early if people are looking for your services.
Never too early.
So you mentioned working with other vendors and other people in your industry. What are some of your favorite party planning resources in Jacksonville?
Yeah, so I definitely think that's, one of my favorite parts about this adventure is all the frienders that I've met along the way. And we say that in the industry as vendors that become friends, I think having an amazing sweets lady, like I mentioned before, personally, I do not bake. So that's a must-have resource for me. And I think for a lot of moms, I think of it as like a hairstylist, like you usually go to the same one because they know you, they know your vibe. So I think, it's not a party without balloons and cake. So of course a sweets lady. And then of course entertainment is important. So I always tell clients, follow a hashtag of like Jack's parties or follow, any of your local bounce house companies, your local cookie makers. Charcuterie is so cute these days. And their posts will just constantly give you inspiration for your next event because they're posting so many different themes and different events. And that's going to give you, all the vibes.
That's a good suggestion. Instagram can help you plan a party super quick.
Oh yeah.
All right. So what's your favorite thing about being a mom in Jacksonville?
I just love how big Jacksonville is. Jacksonville's such a big city. There's always something to do. And we are such an on-the-go family. I don't know if it's because there's 4 of them or what, but we always have something we want to go do. And so that's where, again, I love following like stuff to do in Jax or St. John's Moms. I love following the pages like that. They always are posting the details on the next fun thing in Jax, pumpkin patches and things like that.
Yeah, there is so much to do for kids of all ages in Jacksonville.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you'd like to add before we close up for today?
I think so. I just love encouraging. Hopefully this encourages someone to do something, whatever it is that they're holding back on. I just can't believe I waited so long to do this. It's been such a dream come true to do something that I seriously love. It of course helps my family financially, but it also gave me such a purpose outside of being a mom. I feel like I have my own identity again, and I think that's so important.
Those are some very wise words to end on. Okay, so tell everybody where they can find you.
So DeGrave Designs on Instagram is definitely my platform of choice. I need to get into TikTok. I don't know if it's too late or if I'm too old, but I hear that I really need to. But for now, Instagram is a great place to find me. It has the link to my website where you can find so much pricing info and all the things I offer. And of course, I have a Facebook.
And we'll put links to all of those in our show notes so people can find you.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you so much, Justine. And thank you. Anytime. Thanks for listening.
Thanks for tuning in. If you've enjoyed this episode of Jacksonville Momcast, be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and follow us at Jacksonville Momcast on all the social medias for show updates and more information about our guests. To learn more about what you heard today, visit our show notes at jacksonvillemomcast.com. Thanks for listening.